Just over a year ago, we were in an election campaign, and you were told all kinds of things about the Barbados economy. You were deceived as a people, and you know it. What is wrong in this country is that there are a lot of people who do not wish to hear the truth about the Barbados economy. They want you to talk all kinds of things, but they don't want to lay blame where it should be laid, at the feet of the government of Barbados. In fact, Eswick has said it. Blame us. And that's what he said. Because last election, the impression was given that there were no difficulties in this economy. The Barbados Labour Party took a position that certain measures had to be put in place in order to rescue this country from the misery that it was in. In fact, people, what we are confronting tonight in Barbados did not just start. It started in 2009 when Mayor Motley was the opposition leader of Barbados, and she spoke to these issues in the Parliament of Barbados. And they were rejected. And I could well remember, may he rest in peace, when he said that all we were preaching is doom and gloom, and that the people of Barbados do not want to hear anybody from your political grave. He said that about me. But we know where he is today. And the truth is, Barbados is in a desperate place as I speak to you. And let nobody tell you otherwise. There are some calling hosts who believe in balance, who believe in discussion and fairness. That's okay. But there is a difference between being balanced and being fair. If, as black people, we were unfair in slavery, if, as black people, we were unfair in slavery, it means, therefore, that we are starting from a position where we are disadvantaged. If a government came along and said that it had to treat black people differently in order to rise them up, that does not require balance to be fair. The point that I'm making is that it depends from where you have started. If we want to treat poor people well, we cannot simply say we have to be balanced. In fact, you have to be in balance to bring them to where they should be. And therefore, there's a difference between being balanced and being fair. In this discussion, therefore, on the Barbados economy, let us understand that the economic performance of Barbados did not just start being weak today. It was weak before the last election, and it has gotten weaker. Let us understand that the Barbados debt is not high today. It was high before. It has gotten higher. Let us understand that the people of Barbados are hurting more than they've ever hurt in the history, post-independence history of Barbados. There's no doubt about that. We have never had such a bad government, full stop. You can't identify any Barbados Labour Party government post-Second World War, any Democratic Labour Party government post-Second World War that can be compared to the current administration. The truth is, those fellas are weak, and they have put Barbados in the weakest position that it has been in now for the last umpteen years. No doubt about it. So when we come to speak tonight about where we are now the only country in the region that will not show growth in the year 2014. We are the only country in the region that is under severe pressure. And it has nothing to do with the international environment. In fact, the member for this constituency is now saying that he deserves to be praised for the so-called better performance of tourism. And as I speak to you tonight, Barbados has endured since January 1st of this year its worst ever performance on the foreign reserve side of the economy in any year since we have been an independent nation. In fact, by the end of February 17th this year, even though we borrowed $300 million in December of last year, the central bank has lost $140 million in foreign reserves as I speak to you. And the intent of the fiscal adjustment was that we were going to protect the foreign reserves of Barbados, but we have not succeeded in doing that. In fact, while Sealy is talking about tourism, the central bank cannot show any evidence that we are having a good tourist season. In fact, as I said, this is the worst performance by any government during the first quarter of the year during the winter season. And therefore, people, Barbados is even worse than when the IMF visited in December of last year. And you have to understand that the whole purpose of sending home people in Barbados, the whole purpose of increasing taxation in Barbados was to ensure that our foreign reserve position does not deteriorate to the point where we have to endure a devaluation of our currency. Under Sandyford in the early 1990s, when Sandyford made cuts in expenditure, when Sandyford imposed higher taxation, when Sandy sent home people, believe it or not, Sandy's position was something that we could rescue. But as I speak to you tonight, people, you must understand that we are such sad a position in Barbados that even the IMF is saying that notwithstanding the cuts in expenditure, notwithstanding the sending home of workers across the length and breadth of this country, it will not be enough to ensure that Barbados is rescued from the very delicate position that we're in. So I want to tell you tonight that during the last election, you were told that not one public servant will be sent home. In fact, I well recall the Minister of Finance, who is an absolute liar, saying that I met with Oinata, Tyrone Barker, Wood. We met at the University of the West Indies, and we were intending to send home 10,000 people in this country. At that time, in 2012, in August, I was far away in England. And therefore, I can continue to call the Minister of Finance a liar because he is one. And people ask me how I can do it, because we have evidence. I am therefore telling you tonight, people, that Barbados is in a sad position, and I want you to recognize this, that the IMF report, which we have recently heard about, when you read it in its total detail, is a very miserable report. And if you heard only the summary of the IMF report, you would believe that all is good in Barbados. It is not good. And I owe a duty to the people of Barbados to tell them like it is, because it is important that we do so and not give the impression that Barbados is in a condition where it can be easily rescued. There is no doubt about it. This administration has presided over the most difficult period for Barbadians, even when you compare it to the 1990s Sandyford administration. No public sector worker has had an increase in salary for the last 5 years. Yet still, prices have gone up by over 40%. And the recommendation by the IMF is that there should be a further freeze in wages in the public servant for the next 2 years in Barbados. And yet still you're hearing a deceitful set of individuals trying to tell Barbadians that a possible option is to cut the wages of public sector workers as an alternative to sending home workers in the various statutory boards and in the central government. Well, if you think about it, having not received an increase in salary, you have effectively received a cut in salary based on the fact that your dollar can now buy much less than it did in the year 2007. So all Barbadians are hurting. all Barbadians will continue to hurt people because there is a simple thing. We have been mismanaged, we have been misled, and we have been lied to by the current administration, and there's no doubt at all about that. I want, therefore, to tell you that the way forward is not going to be easy, but that we have spent an inordinate amount of time on this side trying to prepare for the reins of government because you have to do so from now. It does not make sense to wait until it happens. Barbadians want to change this government, but Barbadians need to develop the courage to be able to do so because they do want to change the government. But it's going to take a little more than just coming to nights and speaking to the people of Barbados. In all fairness, people seem to have to hurt before they take action. And they're starting to hurt. And therefore, it is just a matter of time before they recognize that we cannot continue on this road, because by the time of the next election, there will hardly be an economy to manage, and therefore, we have now to start to think in terms of taking these decisions to rescue our people from this current administration. There's no doubt that Frandell Stewart is a poor prime minister. There's no doubt that Frandell Stewart is the worst prime minister we have ever had. There's no doubt that Sinclair is easily the worst minister of finance we've ever had in this country. There's no doubt that Sinclair does not understand the issues that have to be entertained and entered into to be able to govern this country. I want tonight to show you how this country is being governed. You know, last year, that he announced in his budget that there will be a particular kind of VAT rate associated with the hotel sector. Now, there's nothing wrong with reducing the VAT rate on hotel accommodation. But the VAT itself is designed so that you do not discriminate against your locals. But now in Barbados, it is possible for tourists to go to a hotel, eat food, have drinks, and pay only 7.5% VAT on that bill. But if they go to a restaurant somewhere on the south coast or on the west coast, those same tourists have to pay 17.5%. But what is more important, there is no good reason why a local dining in a restaurant should pay a different VAT rate to a person coming here to visit as a tourist. In fact, one of the reasons why VAT is such an important tax system in this world today is because it seeks not to discriminate against either locals or persons visiting the shores of the country. When I heard, or somebody told me about the governor saying something about the VAT system, there's no doubt. Well, I have tuned out. Honestly, I have tuned out. And contrary to what some may believe, it is nothing personal. But if at the age of 19, I went to work at an institution, met individuals whom we respected, met individuals who disregarded the political voice and stuck to their profession, met individuals who understood that what a politician does not want to hear is what you want him to hear, but what you feel based on your ability and your profession he should be told. No politician likes any individual to tell them what they want to hear. They don't trust that. Politicians prefer to be given the facts, the figures, and they will make the political decisions. But when a technocrat becomes a politician, it becomes dangerous not only for the institution, not only for the government, but for the people. In all fairness, politicians have to be kept in check. Politicians cannot be allowed simply to set their own environment because they are people with an interest. They have an interest in getting a vote. So therefore, it is important that professionals balance the opinions of politicians in the interest of the wider cross-section of people. If not, you can find yourself without a country, without an economy, and without businesses to run. Therefore, people, when you listen to a governor of a central bank who seems to be more political than the politician, you have to be worried. Because that is not what you want. You want for, yes, a politician to be interested in raising the stakes of poor people, yes, to be interested in providing for the vulnerable old people in the system, yes, to be able to give a house to those who can't afford it, yes, to be able to make healthcare accessible and affordable, yes, to be able to make education available to the people of Barbados, but you don't want for only political decisions to be made, because you have to consider that in all of this, it is your ability to be able to deliver that good or service to the people at a reasonable cost. I therefore will never sit in a political party that is determined to cut access to tertiary level education, because I cannot begin even to fathom such. I could not have been here without access to free education at the tertiary level. And I don't want for any party in which I am in to even contemplate making health care something that is not universally accessible to the people of Barbados. Therefore, I'm saying to you people that we have in this party, and we have started it, to look at alternative strategies for the governance of this country. We have to look at alternative strategies that will allow not only our children, but those who are less privileged to be able to have access to the education that we want, to the education that we had. How can a country speak of growth and development if generations from now, what we were able to access as young men and women are no longer affordable and available to our offspring? How can we speak of progress when we are seeking to deny the very poor in this society, who we try to trumpet during the election period, to deny them access to the very basic goods and services that we have been so privileged to get? In fact, let me say this to you tonight, that Barbados' state in the international environment, when it came to Human Development Index, had very little to do with the economics of Barbados and more to do with the access of our people to education, health, and other social services. Therefore, our purpose as politicians has mainly to be the upliftment of our people. And if you find a government that lacks the competence, lacks the skills to be able to deliver, then the only thing you can do for the people of this country is to rescue the country from this current government. This current government is weak. This current government is poor. This current government does not have the capacity to take us where we have to go as a nation. Therefore, I invite you people to recognize that we are at that stage in our history where we have to make serious decisions about where we take this country at this time. We are in our darkest hour as a nation. We have not experienced this kind of weakness on the part of any politician, any government in our history. We have not experienced the lack of hope that I see among the young people of this country as I speak to you. Therefore, I am sold on the fact that we need a change in government. I am sold on the fact that we not only need a change in government, but we need a change in governance. I am sold on the need for us to start rethinking how we do business in this country politically. I am saying that this is an opportunity for us not only to change an administration, but actually to change the direction that we're on, to make sure that we do things the right way for the future of our people. I therefore ask you tonight to look in yourself and see whether you are satisfied that you have not been tricked into this position 1 year after the last election. All I'm hearing from people is that you need to come and help rescue us. You need to come and help set us on the right course. But not too long ago, we had the opportunity to do it. But we were hoodwinked. We were told that life was better than it actually was. And when we were preaching to you that this country was in trouble, somehow the people still went and did the wrong thing. But you get a second chance to make the first impression. The first time it's ever happened that you can get a second chance to make the first impression. You have this opportunity, people, to rescue this country. You have this opportunity to put this country back on a path where we can be proud. Because as I travel the region, all I'm being told is how could Barbados, a country that we sought to emulate, could now be in a position where it is the dunciest student in the class.